Good morning. Thank you for being here. We have 2 meetings this morning. We have a budget meeting that we'll do quickly after this meeting. So I will call the main meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. Oh, wait, I would like to make an addition to the agenda. Under new business, make it item 9B. We need to try to appoint a vice chair. So if we could do that. Anything else?
Motion to approve the agenda with the amendment under new business.
Thank you, Ben. Second from Jamil. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment on agenda items. Thank you for being here. You have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Approval of minutes from our regular meeting from January 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 14th.
Motion from Deanna.
I'll second.
Second from Lindsay. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm glad everyone's awake. I felt like I made all the motions last time.
Oh, very good point then. Even though you didn't know about the meeting this morning.
I did not.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Glad you're here, Ben.
Any about positions? Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of financials from February.
Okay, so this month, an update with the MI class account, we have 788,000 in that account. The unpaid bills, what went out in the packet was $55,989.17. That included the monthly QuickBooks, the chamber administrative fee, the Richards and McDougall monthly accounting fee, and then they had an additional fee for $100 for the search and file of 1099. We have a Spicer Streetscape invoice, the Portage Point Rentals doing business as, the Golden Stag facade reimbursement, and the Manistee Elks Lodge facade reimbursement.
Any questions for Nicole?
The actual versus budget on office expenses. Like you're running tight. Are we gonna be okay this year, or should we amend it?
We'll be okay. I will look at it to see what we've got coming with the insurances, because that's really the only thing that gets put in that account is our insurance expenses, but I'll take a look at it, and then next meeting we'll make an adjustment if we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably have to do one big budget amendment towards the end of the year if we're anticipating to pay wrap out in this fiscal year as well. That's something me and Ed Bradford have discussed that. My intention is to have that lump sum payment to the city in this fiscal year, and that will require us to have a budget amendment before July.
Okay.
So.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion to approve the expenses.
Motion to approve the expenses.
Thank you, Ben.
I'll second.
Second from Lindsay. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Executive report. Andrew.
So a lot of downtown property owner engagement this month. Streetscape continues to be kind of #1 priority, getting that officially rolling. The bids were released, or the RFP was released in January. We had our bids back in the beginning of February. And so January is really just sitting down with Spicer a lot, going through where we're at with the streetscape project and what we're gonna do once we get bids in. And so now we'll have a presentation today to get everybody up to speed as to, the design of the wrap, where we're at from a timeline standpoint, now that bids have been received and opened. And so that's taken up quite a bit of time. And then also the MEDC grant programs kind of come to a close here in the end of March. And so that's also taken quite a bit of time in January, is just checking in with people, making sure that they're in a good spot in order to get all their invoices to us by the end of March to get reimbursed by the end of March. So where that's really coming down to the wire, we'll have until the end of April to do all the state reporting for that grant. And that will officially close out in May. For 1st of May would be the last day we have to do anything with the state with that grant.
And just to clarify, the bids for streetscape are just specifically to the RAP grant portion of the project, the West End Plaza.
Yeah, and then finally, one last thing to note is the Northern Hotel project did have a design change in their plan, so they were anticipating 15 residential units. They've scaled that back to 12 residential units, and those units are now just slightly larger. I believe it was due to some construction issues at just ease of construction, scaling that down 3 units.
Okay. Questions or comments from Andrew? Okay, thank you. Subcommittee reports, facade grant.
So I'll just, knock all these out. Golden Stag and Elks are getting reimbursed, as Nicole mentioned. Both have done great work and have given us the appropriate invoices and receipts of payment to get reimbursed for the work that they've completed. And so happy to have both of those closed out. After we reimburse them, I'll need to get certificates of completion signatures from both the Elks and Golden Stag. And then those 2 projects will be closed out. And then we did get an application over last month for a facade grant in the amount of $6,000 in support for the farmers insurance on First and 31, that corner there. The Streetscapes Committee recommends awarding half of that, just given the non-historical nature of the building. And us being really conscious about how we're trying to position the facade program to be more oriented towards those heavier lifts for the historic buildings and not buildings that have been built, in the 70s and have had maybe poor ownership and now they're trying to catch up. And so that's the reason we're kind of recommending half for that award. So that would be in the amount of $3,250.
Need a motion for that?
Yep, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Motion from Bill to approve the 321st Street application as presented for $3,250, correct, Bill?
Yeah, from the. What's the, you said 3,000?
3,200.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay,
And that's half.
that's half of what they're requesting.
So pardon me, so it's 3,125.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the original ask was 6,250.
Okay,
So it's gonna be 3,125.
that your motion, Bill?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, second from Deanna, thank you. Any discussion or questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor? Vote. Motion carried, thank you. Streetscape.
So I just wanted to quickly go over where we're at with the RAP grant. As I mentioned, we did get bids back. We had 3 bids that were all fairly competitive. But before we get into the design elements, just to give an overview of timelines, bids went out in January. City Council will be approached for construction agreements by the first meeting in March. And then we're anticipating construction being completed no later than August 28th, with kind of punch list items being completed by September 4th. So that's the timeline. There are some milestones in there that whoever we select for construction, they're gonna have to hit certain milestones throughout the summer. And so the first milestone needs to be complete no later than June 30th. And then the second milestone is June 30th through August 28th. And so that's the timeline that the construction firms have to work. And this is in an attempt to try to minimize the impact that businesses west of Maple Street will be experiencing. I've been meeting with all the businesses west of Maple just to sit down with them, show them the renderings, tell them the timeline, give them transparent information about, hey, you're probably going to be impacted in these different windows throughout the summer, because there will be a mill infill, which is a redoing of the road, and that will require a complete closure of west of Maple on River. It'll be a complete closure that will impact vehicle traffic. And then there'll be certain construction elements that will close down the sidewalk in certain areas that will have impacts on businesses that are further west on River Street past Oak, that Oak intersection. And so when we look at the design that is being proposed, and we've come up with the main reason we got the RAP grant was due to this plaza area and converting it more into an event space. And so we are going kind of all pavers for this section. And the intention is to keep River Street open through that, but slow it down where it feels more like a parking lot space. So it's not going to just be complete through traffic, and getting the traffic to actually come to a stop here and have to turn onto Water Street rather than that breakneck merge that currently exists where river intersects water. And so the traffic flow hopefully will kind of turn into more of a diversion onto Pine Street and then onto Water. We're keeping the same parking here that exists with some new markings, but we're really not eliminating any parking in this plaza area. So this is the reason we really got the grant, and a big reason that MEC kind of like the project. This will be a curbless, all paver, feel more of a plaza feel to it. Going down River East, the bump outs are really the big additions that we're adding. And so at each intersections, this is the outsider here. They'll be getting a bump out on the south side of River Street and then on the north side. And then when you go further east, there'll be bump outs that will help get pedestrians farther out on River Street and kind of make River Street feel a little more pinched to slow traffic down. And there'll be 4 additional bump outs on that intersection to help with kind of mitigate that traffic. In between the intersections, what we're looking to do currently is just reset those problem areas where there's great trip hazards. But that's kind of all that's happening between the intersections. Most of the project is really in the plaza and within the bump outs. The bump outs are those key elements that we're looking to carry throughout the rest of River Street once we kind of go into phase 2 and 3 of the project that's east of Maple. Here's some better ideas of like the pavement markings that we'll have for that plaza area. And so been able to sit down with John Faber. He kind of understands the impact. This plaza area will be the section that will be underway starting June 30th to that August 28th timeframe. And that's to prevent farther east on River, when they have to do these bump outs, there'll be some disruption to pedestrian and vehicle traffic. And so we want that to happen earlier in the summer months. So it's not impacting people like Kelly Hallmark or Fracano's or the outsider when that's going on. So the bump outs will be completed by June 30th is the intent. And then the company that is selected will be able to shut down River Street here and just work on that plaza for the remainder of the summer, which will have little impact on the pedestrian or vehicle flow for the businesses in this stretch of River. And then just a better idea, this will be kind of bollard out to provide, if somebody wanted to hold an event here, there will be removable bollards on River Street that will be placed to kind of give that delineation of this is the event area, this is where traffic has to flow. And there'll be bollards on the back end as well to provide visual delineation that you got to turn into a stop sign that will be right here and then onto Water. And so that's the design. That was the timeline. That's kind of what I wanted to show you guys today. Are there any questions regarding where we're at with that? This is kind of a design that came out of the Fleece and Vanderbrink study back in 23. And so if anybody asks, what was the public input on this? We spent $130,000 on public input back in 2023, right? On getting a huge document down.
What's the feedback you're getting from the business owners, knowing they're going to have to be impacted? Are they receptive?
Yeah, people are actually very receptive. Everybody I've met with 6 businesses now. Fracano's, Outsider, Well Nested, Kelly's, Hallmark, and one other I can't remember. But everybody has been very receptive. They understand this isn't going to be really comfortable, but how we're doing it with front loading disruption, they were in support of that. And they said, it's a needed change. We know it's going to be a little painful this year, but the long-term gain is going to be great. And that's especially like John Faber's input, where they'll probably be the most impacted business at that end, where that plaza area is where they held so many events last year but they won't be able to program that nearly as much this year with all the construction going on. So he understands it's going to be disruptive to their plans that they had last year. But again, overall, very supportive. People just kind of want continued transparent communication. And so I've told them, we're going to set up some sort of system to make sure that the businesses have construction updates, if anything is to change, making sure that the DDA has some sort of either, page on our website that can be dedicated to giving updates or kind of outlining the project so everybody's in the know, and just me continuing to get out, knock on doors, get the next day Business Connect meeting. I want to do a similar presentation just so all the businesses in downtown are aware of what's going on, what the streetscape is going to look like, more or less. Any other questions?
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Legislative directive spending request.
So in regard to the streetscape, obviously it's very expensive. And so something that the chamber has the ability to do is do a legislative directive spending in which we put in requests with the state for in the budgeting season, money gets earmarked for certain projects in different communities. And so for Manistee, we want to make sure that the DDA streetscape project's kind of highlighted. And so we're gonna request funds in that way to do the future project in this next kind of budget cycle for the state, and then probably keep that as our request from the state for the following years until that project's really complete. Because we know it's going to be expensive, and even with our bonding capacity, it's going to probably outstrip what we're going to be able to come up with. So we'll have to get creative with grants and other funding sources. And so this is one way that the DDA can at least attempt to seek other funds. And I just wanted to put that to the board's attention. So if you see anything out there from like the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, that you're not taking back that, our projects on that list of potential, funding opportunities for the state.
And just to kind of circle back on the streetscape, goals were to do a phased approach. This obviously being the first, the RAP grant being the first phase because of that funding. But then after that, we'd like to see the intersections done with the bump outs and the crosswalks. And then I think phase 3 was infill the straightaways with new infrastructure in between the, and there's other projects, the Dick's Barbershop parking lot, as we call it, that could be another project. So we're definitely looking at this as a phased approach, but looking for funding as we go, so.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to events.
So nothing for events outside of a little update that the events committee did meet this week just to discuss kind of future processes to help downtown businesses in supporting, events and getting information out there. DDA was able to support a business to do a Galentine's Day event this Friday and Thursday. And so we just had kind of discussion about that, especially after we got our proposals back from those third-party vendors that were extremely expensive, and that's not really an option for us to get a event coordinator through that pathway. And so there was just general discussion, and there'll be more, I guess, detailed material at the next DDA meeting. And we'll probably meet again in February, just to have further discussion once I've come up with some documentation. So that's all for events.
Thank you, Andrew. I guess moving on to old business already.
Can I say something about events real quick?
Sure.
I'm just wanting to say that I'm really excited that Little did step up and do this Galentine's event. Like, way to go, and way to, just bring something to downtown that's really positive. So, and that they have community support is really great.
Thanks, Deanna. Old business, Seeds EcoCorp's proposal.
So you were presented with a proposal back in November, I believe, and I wanted to invite Jennifer Flynn to kind of just give a brief overview of Seeds EcoCorp as an organization and the work they provide, and kind of looking at it. They provided us with a new proposal that I would like this board to consider, and we'll get into the details after Jennifer has had a chance to kind of give more detail about the organization and the work.
Welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer Flynn. I'm the EcoCore Program Director with Seeds Ecology and Education Centers. And we are in our 26th year. We have worked alongside the Manistee community in several different capacities. At one point in time, we were the farmers market manager. We've had school programming that we've offered here, after school programming through our Eco School program. And our EcoCore program is focused on working with youth and other job seekers who are looking to pursue green collar careers, which prepares them for work out in, our communities across the Northwestern Lower Michigan region. They typically have gone on to pursue careers with the U.S. Forest Service, the National Park Service, but also with local municipalities supporting parks and recreation departments. And often they're going on to start their own businesses as well. So we train them, we provide them with extensive ecological systems knowledge. They understand the concepts of native landscaping, which is really why we're invited here to further assist with the plantings along the Riverwalk. Because that is integral to their experience and their understanding of what makes a community welcoming, beautified for both our human and non-human communities. So we're really focused on that systems level integration of these individuals who we hire year after year and the places where they're living and working, and think beyond just the human level, and really invite them to get inspired by the places where they're working and the possibilities that they have for themselves and for those places.
Any questions for Jennifer?
Thank you for being here.
No, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, very much. And so, sorry.
I was just going to say, they are our folks that work with us are hired as staff. They're not volunteers. They're not part of AmeriCorps. So we pay them real wages. So those wages typically get put back into the communities where they're living. So it's a great opportunity for them. Sometimes it's their first job ever. And our crew leaders who are more experienced individuals typically come with their own professional background and educational backgrounds that lead those crews.
Thank you. And so looking at the proposal, I said this with the old proposal and now the new proposal, obviously, I don't think it would be wise to advise the DDA to step up and foot the entire bill. That wouldn't kind of be ideal for our budget priorities in the streetscape. However, in talking with the community foundation and looking at, other community partners to help make this project go, I think it's a good way to kind of stretch the dollar. If we're able to go after a grant opportunity, this board kind of gave me the opportunity to explore the community foundation pathway. I think there's a lot of potential there in helping fund the current proposal. And my request to the board would be, supporting a grant application to the community foundation with a match of $5,000. And then I need to go get Jeff Bakula and a couple other city entities to do like in-kind matches. Just because they're already doing a lot of support on the Riverwalk with their work. And this new proposal incorporates that DDA parking lot area. And that was an area that we were already looking at to hire a third-party contractor next year to work on. And so that's where I think we're really stretching our dollar, where we would probably pay a third-party contractor $3,000 to do a one-time cleanup and planting in the spring. And then that would be it. And so by spending $2 extra grand on supporting a grant application, not only were you able to actually get seasonal support for that parking lot area, we're also able to get Riverwalk support for those garden beds that have largely relied on volunteers over the past years and have varied in, quality because of the fluctuation of volunteers. And so that'd be my request to the board, just $5,000 in a match to the community foundation grant. And then Bill, I need to talk with you. The community foundation had some questions regarding how grants work with the DDA. And if the DDA actually has the capacity to be the sole grantee, or it doesn't always go through the city.
Okay, we can look at that.
Yeah.
So you're requesting that the DDA allocate $5,000 and the ask from the foundation, we match
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and so that would be the request. We have $40,000 budgeted for this type of work in this fiscal year. And so right now, we've only spent 14,000 of that 40. And so we definitely have room in this fiscal year to make that happen. And that's why I think that, the $5,000 is a reasonable request because it's not outstripping, we're not spending 20 grand to do this and then it's gonna kind of screw up the streetscape project too
I'm gonna
much.
help you because we're gonna pick up 5,000 in interest off the Michigan class this year anyways.
Mhm.
So the question that I have for you is,
Yeah.
this is gonna be an ongoing program.
Mhm.
So this is gonna need to be a budgeted item moving forward.
Yeah, potentially, because I view this year as like a pilot, where I think everybody else in the city views it as a pilot, and let's see how it goes. If great work is gonna be done, and we see that, absolutely, let's turn it into an annual program, but I view this year as a pilot program.
Great idea.
Okay.
I mean, when I look at it, we budgeted 25, we're gonna make 30,200 off interest right now.
Mhm.
Interest rates will change, but this is a good year to try that.
And we
Thank
can
you.
utilize it as a trial period, not a contractual. There's no contracts involved.
Yeah, there's no long-term, we're not getting locked in for, 4 years of service. This is definitely a trial run and this is still contingent on, we definitely want community support. We don't want to be the sole participant in this because we have Parks Commission, we have DPW, we have the Community Foundation who all share a lot of interest in supporting the Riverwalk, especially after the investment that just went into it over last year with redoing it through the EPA grant. So I think it shouldn't be the sole responsibility of the DDA to fund initiatives like this. I think it's a multi-pronged approach. I think the Community Foundation views it as the same. I don't want to speak for them, but I think they view it as the same in conversations that it needs to have that community buy-in where it can't just be one entity taking it on. It has to be, let's see what the DPW can do to help. Let's see what Parks Commission can do to help. But this has been talked about at large with, the Neighborhood Beautification Committee and the Parks Commission, and everybody seems to be in support of it.
So when we say Riverwalk, is that specific to a particular area or is it the entire length of?
No, so we've narrowed it down to a very specific project area. So it's gonna be east of Maple Street Bridge to the DDA parking lot with like very specific beds in there and already talked about there's a potential project that will be taking place on the Riverwalk, making sure that it doesn't interfere with any of the beds that they're looking to, I guess, disrupt in that project. So
I mean, this quote gives us the ability to have volunteers as I read it, which will help reduce some of the costs based on the
We've
contract.
worked alongside Gordy this past at least year, 2.
Are you a nonprofit?
We are.
Okay, so if like individuals wanted to support it, that would be
Sure.
an option as well. Okay. Or businesses or building owners or whatever. Okay.
Timeline for the grant application?
So the Community Foundation, their spring window ends March 1st. And so it'll be throughout, correct? Sarah, it is March, okay. Yeah, so it'll be March 1st as a deadline. And so I'll be working over the next 2-3 weeks to pull together all the material that's necessary for that application.
Great. So we would need support for this. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And has the NRBC talked about this at all or this particular? Not yet.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
I mentioned it to them, but it wasn't on the agenda. So
Okay.
there was kind of little formal discussion. Everybody was in general support of it, but just was like, well, then how do we support?
Okay.
So they'll have to
Maybe
be
this
more.
first, then maybe them.
Yeah.
I know they have some volunteer support.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to support this to the tune of $5,000 in a grant application.
Okay, motion from Bill. Second from Jamil. Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Cool. New business, item A, Match on Main grant program.
So the state of Michigan has held the Match on Main grant program over the last couple of years. It's been very, very successful. It is a match or a reimbursement match grant in the amount of $25,000. But the interesting part is they rely on local entities, whether it's a city government or a DDA, to submit applications for the businesses. The local organization's only allowed to submit for 2 businesses. There are quite a few state guidelines and materials out there. This is something we've kind of already put out to the businesses, just saying, heads up, this is coming down the pipe. It covers pretty much any business in the DDA district and covers a lot of eligible activities. It can be interior renovation, it could be inventory expansion, new payment systems for businesses. It pretty much doesn't cover wages and debts, but everything else is fair game for small businesses. And so it's a great program. And again, the state gives us the application that we need to put out there. It gives us scorecards to select what 2 applications we then go submit to the state. But I would like the board to kind of designate the target business committee to be the ones who filter out or score the application, so it's not a full board activity. And then in the April meeting, come to the full board and suggest which 2 that would go to the state level. It's something that the application period for the DDA opens March 1st and it ends April 20th. And so my idea is that we open applications locally, March 1st to businesses, and then have them be complete by the end of March. And then we'll be able to select the 2 in our April meeting and be able to hit that April 20th deadline still.
This is targeted at businesses, not properties, correct? Okay.
Correct. And so it's small business. You don't even have to actually be an existing business. You could be somebody who's, I'm currently working to become a business in downtown Manistee. The only requirement is you have to have the property under control through a lease or through ownership. And it's a great opportunity for our small businesses, though. It's just kind of a open door of anything's eligible, really. It's quite a few activities are eligible. So it's a great program, but I would like to designate the target business committee to that group.
I'll make that designation. And who's on that?
It's Ben, Jamil, and Deanna. I just thought that'd be probably the most appropriate spot to be scoring those.
And that wouldn't exclude them from applying, would it?
No, there are conflict of interest clauses, and so that just has to be known.
Okay.
And it needs to be a transparent process through scoring. And so we'll go through that group will go through the process of scoring them and have a good idea of which ones should be selected, but we'll still probably have to provide everybody who applies their full applications in the April meeting, just so it's completely clear as to how we hit that score. And anybody who is applying, who's in this group, can make it clear that, conflict of interest clause, I'm not allowed to vote. And just have a completely transparent process so nobody can come back and say, oh, you picked, 2 favorite businesses or whatever it's going to be.
And if that were the case, we could appoint other board members to score as well.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Don't want to exclude you. Okay, great, thank you. Item B that I added is we need to designate a vice chair. So currently Sammy is, Lucas Gevitz is our treasurer and Deanna is our secretary and I'm the chair. The 4 of us or 3 of us would be our signers on a checking account. It'd be helpful to have another one. Vice chair responsibilities basically is if the chair is gone, then the vice chair would run the meeting. So the process is that somebody on the board can nominate somebody else and then we vote on that. Is that pretty accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With the open floor, I would like to nominate Ben Crowley as vice chair.
You accept
I'll accept.
Okay.
any other nominations?
Okay. Voting? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Deanna.
It
Thank
just
you, Deanna.
solidifies your seat for another couple of years.
I think I'm up with you now.
But you're the appropriate person.
I would think.
Thank you all. Moving on to public comment on agenda items or Thank you again for being here. Board member comment? Bill?
Just add that, yeah, we're gonna, thank you, Andrew, for going over the streetscape. We're also gonna go over that with city council at the next meeting, and then, as stated in the schedule, we're looking for approval March 3rd, so we can keep this on track.
Right.
And it's an interesting process too, because this board was part of the RAP. Obviously, we weren't the entity that actually were awarded the RAP, and so a lot of things have to go through the city. And that's why it is kind of a interesting, everything's going to city council for final approval.
The last meeting last week was like, finally felt like things were coming together.
Yep.
Going through the budget, making decisions, so. Yeah, anything? Okay. Andrew?
No, I'm good.
Ben?
No.
Okay. Camille? Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Ben?
Second.
Thank you, Deanna. Moving on to our special meeting, very special. I will call this meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Second from Lindsay, thank you. Public comment on agenda items. None. Moving on to new business, fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget. Nicole and staff have done a lot of work on this, so I'll turn it over to, assuming Nicole.
I did put budget narrative in there for everyone, but we'll just kind of walk through.
And just the budget subcommittee has met a handful of times as well, so that is Ben, Sammy, and me, right?
And then just to put it out there, we're not approving any budget today. This is strictly discussion on the numbers. The budget will need to be approved at the next meeting. So just going through, we have yet to receive the numbers from Ed Bradford from the city, so I just did a 1% increase, being conservative on some of like the interest and the TIF. So those are pretty straightforward there. Going down, advertising, we've currently spent just under 10,000, under 9,000 really. So keeping that at 15 with RAP in mind and like continuation of the streetscape, I will probably drop that down to 10. Just trying to be very conservative. We do need to have a surplus this year, so we do need to have a balanced budget. City service agreement, I did a 3% increase. Bill, is that still correct?
I think we had it tied to inflation, so it's around there. It might be 2.75, but
Okay. So I remember it was like a 0 to 3% is what it was subject to, so I just went high. For 26-27, this next fiscal year, allocating 30,000 for any new facades. 25-26, we currently have 39,000 left. We could receive some applications before June to allocate that. We also might not. So if we don't receive any, that will kind of fall off because we've already paid out the 11, and we will pay out that 3,125 that was just allocated today. Downtown beautification, going to be dropping that one down. We haven't come anywhere close to 40 in recent years, so dropping that down to 25, may even drop it to 20. Still is room for that seeds thing. If that happens in this fiscal year or next, there's still room for it. The facade grant for MEDC will be closed out, the last payment. We have one more, right, Andrew?
Mhm.
So that'll be next month. 24-25, that is the piping clover facade grant, and that will likely be paid out in this fiscal year as well, so that should drop off. Bank charges, keeping that the same. I think we normally just get up to about the $700 mark with the account analysis fee. Office operating, I'm gonna look into that further with the insurance amounts and what we spend. Maybe 5,000 will get bumped up based on that. The economic development contract, which we signed last year, is for 20,000. It says administrative fee, so we did rename that category. That used to be the executive director fee. Renaming it administrative because it is more than just Andrew that money is allocated towards. That's allocated towards everybody who works on the chamber staff. It's my time. Whoever we hire when they take over some of the social media stuff, that'll be their time. Just making that a little more encompassing. And then we are looking to increase that to 85,000. Kyle has the contract in front of him with the proposed language changes outlining exactly what Andrew and I and the rest of the team at the chamber do. Accounting, keeping that at 6,000. We are still locked in. Gotta remember when that contract was signed, but we did enter into a 3-year agreement with Richards and McDougall. They locked in the same rate of $425 a month for that entire 3 years. Legal fees, we haven't had anything in that category, but still just earmarking 5,000 if something were to come up. The audit, increasing to 2,085 because really last year that presentation was $85, so just upping it to that to be safe. I am expecting a bill for that. That has yet to come. Engineering fees, this would be your continuation of the streetscape. So right now we have that at 75. Andrew and I discussed about potentially bringing that down based on the project itself of when its stuff is getting done. And then the Downtown Dollars program is officially done. So if any of you downtown business owners see the old Downtown Dollars, no longer accept them. It is fully Manistee County cash now. And then the partnership for the parking lot underneath this building is for 20,000 with West Shore.
And so just to note too, what the intention was, as Nicole noted at the beginning of the presentation, streetscape needs to be a financial priority to make it feasible. Because even right now in the wrap and full transparency, even with the low bid, it's over. You know, it's over what we could afford. We need a construction project that's 1.2 million. The low bid for construction was around 1.5. And so figuring out a way to value engineer out $300,000 isn't an easy task. And after yesterday's meeting, we were able to get it down to about 150, but there's still a gap. And so we'll have to get creative with how we fund that. And the city's been willing to discuss things like, you know, interest loans to the DDA. So that way we don't need to go bond out and lock ourselves up for 15 years, you know, paying an annual payment of $120,000. You know, if we were able to get a loan from the city to cover that, what have you, that would be a good, you know, kind of temporary solution where it's going to take us, 2 years to pay it back. And then we can continue with the streetscape and still have our full bonding capacity to throw at that next phase. And so the intention of the surplus is so that we can then leverage it for, the city, say, any surplus we have, we can, help pay back this loan if that is the route we end up going, if we can't continue to find other funding solutions. And so we've gone really slim this year, and there's potential to get even slimmer with dropping engineering from 75 down to 50, kind of backloading where the engineering cost is on the next phase of this streetscape project, because that's not going to be feasible until 28. Construction's not going to take place in the spring of 27, just due to this project. And so we can pay for the start of the engineering with 50,000, right after wrap's done in November, December, January next year. But we could then wait until the following fiscal year, that fall and winter, to then pay for a larger part of the engineering cost when construction gets a little closer in that spring of 28, hopefully, for the second half of the streetscape project.
Our meetings are gonna get even shorter because all we're gonna talk about is streetscape. Any questions for Nicole or Andrew? Nice work.
I have a question on the annual audit. So, and it might seem like splitting hairs just a little bit, but we put that out there for bid, right? They give us a price for the annual audit.
No, that's actually under a contract with the city, so Anderson and Tackman is the city's auditor and by default ours. And they entered into a couple years agreement. I don't know exactly when that agreement is up, but we are with Anderson and Tackman until the city rebids it.
Okay, and the only reason I say that is if they give a price of $2,000, like $85 doesn't seem like much to come and give a presentation. But if they give a quote or a price of $2,000 and then they say, oh, it's $2,000 plus a presentation, like what does that cost next year for the presentation?
I don't think we have to have the presentation.
Yeah, you could do it remotely if you wanted to, too. They're pretty, yeah, they're reasonable compared to auditors. I'll just say that. And we did extend them. They've done a lot of remote things and they've been good to work with, but, yeah. So there's probably, they'll work with, I guess my point is they'll work with the DDA if you want to look at options that are less costly.
Right, and again, $85 isn't much, but then it's like, what is it in the future? So, okay, that's my only comment.
You know why millionaires are millionaires? Because they pay attention to the pennies.
Well, there you go.
Here we go.
One of the reasons that we do have them present over Zoom is because I'm like involved in the audit process. I have Kyle sign a couple documents, but I'm the one getting them that, so it's to keep the board informed of, we did have a clean audit, this is what they're seeing. So it's just a transparency thing to make sure that I'm doing my job. So that's kind of why we have them present.
I think you're doing a great job, Nicole. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on the budget? Do we have to vote on this yet? We're not,
No,
just the
it's strictly
presentation.
discussion.
Yeah.
We'll need a vote next meeting because Ed Bradford needs this, I believe by March 13th is our deadline to get this to him.
We're more on track than we've ever been.
Good question for you though. I know we did the budget subcommittee, but we're gonna do this streetscape. Community college did a great job here. Ever renegotiate that back a little bit?
Renegotiate what?
Take that 20,000 down to 15 and say, hey, what are the chances you're willing to drop us a little bit to help us with the project we have going
Who are
downtown?
we talking about?
I'm talking about the partnership we have with West Shore.
Oh,
20 grand down to 15 for a couple of years. I'm just throwing the idea out.
it's a contract.
I know
That's how they,
it can be renegotiated. I'm just asking.
yeah, I don't know.
We could review it,
We can look at it.
yeah.
We probably should look at it because we have it in a long.
I know that it is, like, the contract is through 2045.
It is, but I'm just saying with the work we're gonna be doing downtown, would they be willing to be, in a way, partner with us to say, hey, let's renegotiate this a little bit to help the DDA? I'm just throwing that idea out there.
Okay. Well, why don't we, just have the contract in our packet for next meeting? I don't think most people have seen it, at least in a long time.
And again, not this year, not this budget,
Okay.
because we're gonna get approve this one, but a lot of this work's gonna be getting done through the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Just an idea, especially when he talks about doing interest-free loans and paying back, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, thanks, Ben, thanks, Nicole. Andrew. Public comment, no one's here. Oh, wait, sorry, paper's here, any comment? Thanks for coming. Board member comments on these agenda items?
No worries, you, Nicole, fantastic, appreciate the transparency and the work you put into it, thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Ben.